As the nation pauses today to remember the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., four prominent county residents have clear memories of where they were 50 years ago today. Judge Alexander Williams, County Administrator Howard Stone, registered nurse Becky Battisford, and Reverend Perry Smith all talk about where they were on April 4th, 1968. Judge Williams was a store clerk on 8th Street when the disturbances began. Battisford was working at Hub Furniture at 7th and D Streets. Reverend Smith worked for the county and was riding in a truck patrol along Southern Avenue to keep potential riders from entering Prince George's County. Stone was a teen in Anacostia watching news and reports on plumes of smoke billowing across the city.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop.
I was 16 years old. I was still in high school, and in Washington, we were living, I guess, the safe, comfortable life. Parents worked for the government, and I mean, it was just a safe life, and you had no issues. But when you saw the riots and you saw those people out there looting, and they weren't looting just to loot; they were looting because of frustration, because of a need.
I was working at Hub Furniture Company on 7th and D Street, and my mother worked right next door at the insurance company. I was a cashier, and the bosses came by and said girls were closing. And we weren't sure what was going on. The smoke was probably coming from 14th Street, but you could see smoke all over, and you could even smell it. Then I got scared.
I worked at the Safeway as part of a job I had as a college student, and that afternoon people started running inside the store saying they had just killed Martin Luther King, and people are gathering for whatever they were going to do. They closed the Safeway very quickly and told us to go home or get out of the area. And quite candidly, it was a ugly scene. There was looting going on. People were carrying furniture and TVs, and jewelry stores were vandalized. And then people started to take clothes from the clothing stores, and then they started to burn the buildings and the establishments. I don't think any of us recognized the anger that was in the eyes and feelings of so many citizens in Washington. And that event, the killing of Martin Luther King in Memphis, Tennessee, became the catalyst for all types of anger displays that took place in Washington at that time.
I was instructed to ride the line, Southern Avenue, and encourage people not to come across that line because the police had instructions. They were going to protect that line.
In my first week working in Upper Marlboro back in 1976, I went to a lunch. It was called the Old Town Inn, but not the Old Town as it is now. It was owned by whites then. And I went in there to get a bite to eat, and they used to have a bar in the middle of the restaurant, and there were state's attorneys, investigators, and police sitting around the bar. And you know what their topic of conversation? How they had just beat, and they said just beat the N-words to keep them from coming into Prince George's County.
It was a season of killings, if as a matter of fact. It really was. There was never a time when one can lift one's eyes and without tears because of the deaths of these persons who really, in many ways, stood for right and righteousness. And of course, it put a fire in my belly at that point to see what might I do to help the movement.
The things that happened around Dr. King's assassination, they really more than sparked my interest because I looked at inequalities that we have right in our own black community. I mean, the things that happen and the need for what I call social justice. And that was really what sparked my interest to become a public servant.
I had been given the gift. I wanted to be a nurse, and I thought I could help humanity being a nurse and advocating for people.
Seeing so much anger, it certainly woke me up and certainly let me know that I need to work harder in school to achieve my goal of being a lawyer so that I could get out there in the forefront and get into these social issues.
To those who much is given, much is required. And, you know, Dr. King was the person that called us to action to do this.